Ambassador Velric stood before the Grand Council of the Corvani Federation, her forearms trembling slightly as she prepared to deliver her report. The chamber was vast and circular, filled with representatives from 17 different species. All of them had come to hear about the newly discovered civilization on the third planet of the Sol system, the humans. The council elder, a massive crystalline being named Zorhax, gestured for silence. The murmuring stopped immediately. Every eye, sensor, and receptor in the room focused on Velrix. "Ambassador," Zorhax said, his voice resonating through the chamber like wind through hollow stones. "You spent 3 standard cycles among the humans. We are eager to hear your findings. Are they suitable for integration into the Federation?" Velrix paused. She had prepared this speech many times on the journey home. Yet now, standing here, she found the words difficult to speak. "Honored Council," she began, "I must inform you that my diplomatic mission has revealed deeply disturbing information about human psychology. I recommend extreme caution in all future dealings with this species." A wave of surprised whispers moved through the chamber. The humans had seemed primitive but promising. Their technology was advancing rapidly. Their planet was rich in resources. What could possibly be so concerning? "Please explain," Zorhax commanded. Velrix activated the holographic display behind her. Images of Earth appeared, showing cities, forests, oceans, and mountains. "The humans are a fascinating species in many ways," she said. "They are creative, adaptable, and remarkably intelligent for such a young civilization. However, during my time among them, I discovered something that challenges everything we understand about sentient life." She paused, gathering her thoughts. "The humans are completely aware that they will die. They know this from a very young age. And yet, they continue to function normally." The chamber fell into confused silence. The Corvani elder, Matriarch Sylvine, raised one of her tendrils. "Ambassador, I do not understand. All sentient beings are aware of death. We simply take measures to avoid it." "You misunderstand," Velrix replied. "The humans do not simply know that death exists. They live with the constant knowledge that their individual lives will end. Their bodies decay rapidly by galactic standards. Their average lifespan is less than 100 Earth years, and they cannot transfer consciousness, regenerate fully, or enter stasis to extend their existence." She changed the display to show human biological data. "They begin dying from the moment they are born. Their cells break down. Their organs fail slowly over time. They watch their parents, their friends, their children grow old and die. And they know with absolute certainty that the same fate awaits them." The crystalline representative made a sound of distress. The Vorten delegate covered his sensory organs as if the information caused physical pain. "This is horrific," someone called out. "How do they maintain sanity?" "That is precisely what disturbs me most," Velrix answered. "They do maintain sanity. In fact, they seem to embrace their mortality in ways I cannot explain." She brought up images of human activities. People laughing at parties. Children playing in parks. Elderly couples holding hands. I observed them closely. I lived among them. I expected to find a species paralyzed by fear, desperately searching for ways to escape death. Instead, I found something far more unsettling. She took a deep breath. "They celebrate the passage of time. They mark each year of life with festivals called birthdays. They willingly engage in dangerous activities for pleasure. They form deep emotional bonds with others despite knowing those bonds will eventually be broken by death. They create art, build structures, and write stories that they know will outlast them." The Zephyrian ambassador, a being of pure energy, flickered with confusion. But why? If they know their efforts will ultimately be rendered meaningless by their death, why do they bother? "I asked them this question many times," Velrix said. "Their answers were always strange. They spoke of concepts like legacy and living in the moment. They said that the temporary nature of life makes it more precious, not less. One human told me that a sunset is beautiful precisely because it fades. She shook her head, still not fully understanding. I attended a gathering they call a funeral. It is a ceremony held when someone dies. I expected overwhelming grief, perhaps mass panic. Instead, I witnessed something else entirely. Yes, there were tears, but there was also laughter. People shared stories about the deceased. They smiled while remembering good times. Some even told jokes. The council members exchanged disturbed glances. They have learned to find comfort in death, Velrix continued. They have built entire philosophical and religious systems around accepting mortality. Some believe in afterlives. Others believe in nothing beyond death. But regardless of their beliefs, they somehow find ways to keep living with purpose and even joy. She changed the display again. This time, it showed human soldiers, firefighters, and medical workers. What concerns me most is how this awareness affects their behavior in dangerous situations. I witnessed humans running into burning buildings to save strangers. I saw them donate organs while still alive to help others. I learned about their history of warfare, where young humans would sacrifice their lives for abstract concepts like freedom and honor. The military advisor of the Corvani, General Thras, leaned forward with interest. "They are willing to die for ideas?" he asked. Eagerly, Velrix confirmed. Because they already know they will die anyway. Death holds no surprise for them, only the timing and circumstances. This makes them unpredictable in combat and negotiation. You cannot threaten someone with something they have already accepted. She displayed recordings from her time on Earth. Humans base jumping off cliffs, racing vehicles at dangerous speeds, climbing mountains without safety equipment. They deliberately seek out dangerous experiences. They call it thrill-seeking or extreme sports. They say that brushing close to death makes them feel more alive. Some of their greatest heroes are those who face death with courage and calm. Elder Zordhak shifted uncomfortably. Ambassador, surely this must cause them psychological damage. A species cannot function healthily under such conditions. One would think so, Velrix agreed. And indeed, many humans do struggle with the concept. They have a condition called existential crisis, where individuals become overwhelmed by thoughts of death and meaninglessness. But here's what truly disturbs me. Most of them recover from this state. They process these feelings and then return to their daily lives as if nothing happened. She pulled up more data on her display. Their literature, their art, their music, all of it is saturated with themes of death and mortality. They do not hide from it. They explore it constantly. They write love songs knowing that love will end in separation. They build monuments knowing those monuments will eventually crumble. They have a saying, "This too shall pass," and they apply it to everything, both good and bad. The Mindweaver, a telepathic species representative, spoke up. I attempted to scan several humans during a previous encounter. Their minds were chaotic, filled with competing thoughts and emotions. Now I understand why. They carry the knowledge of their own death with them every moment. Yet somehow, they do not collapse under this weight. Velrix nodded. I believe this is why humans develop so quickly as a species. They have no time to waste. They know each day could be their last, so they push themselves harder. They take risks that other species would avoid. They innovate constantly because they want to leave something behind before they are gone. She turned to face the council directly. I must warn you all. If we ever come into conflict with humanity, we will face an enemy that has already made peace with death. They will not surrender out of fear of dying. They may actually embrace the opportunity to die for a cause they believe in. This makes them extraordinarily dangerous. General Thras spoke again. Then we must never give them a cause to fight against us. I agree, Velrix said, but there is another option. If we can become their allies, we will have friends who will stand beside us against any threat. Humans are fiercely loyal. They form bonds that transcend logic. They will sacrifice themselves for those they care about without hesitation. She displayed a final image. It showed a human father teaching his daughter to ride a bicycle. Both were smiling, completely unaware that their time together was limited. "This is what haunts me most," she said quietly. "They find happiness despite everything. They love despite knowing that love will cause them pain. They create despite knowing their creations will fade. They hope despite having every reason to despair." The chamber was silent for a long moment. "Perhaps," Elder Zorhak said finally, "we are the ones who should be disturbed. We have extended our lives for thousands of years, yet what have we truly accomplished? The humans pack more meaning into their short existences than we have in all our centuries." Velrix nodded slowly. "That was my final conclusion as well. The humans are not to be pitied for their mortality. They are to be respected, perhaps even admired. They have looked into the face of oblivion and chosen to dance anyway." She deactivated the display. "My recommendation is that we approach humanity with openness and honesty. We should offer them our technology, including life extension. But I warn you, many may refuse. I spoke with humans who said they would not want to live forever. They said that endless life would become meaningless." The council exchanged glances. This concept was beyond their understanding. "They are truly alien to us," Matriarch Sylvian said. "More alien than any species we have encountered before. Not in body, but in mind." Velrix gathered her materials and prepared to leave the stage. "One last thing," she added. "The humans have a tradition of telling ghost stories around fires at night. They frighten each other with tales of death and the unknown. And then they laugh. They laugh at death itself. I have never encountered such courage in all my centuries of existence." She bowed to the council. "That concludes my report. May the Federation choose its path wisely." As she walked from the chamber, the council members sat in stunned silence. They had expected many things from the human investigation. They had not expected to feel small in comparison to a species that lived barely a century. Outside the chamber, Velrix stopped by a window and looked out at the stars. Somewhere out there, on a small blue planet, humans were being born and dying. They were falling in love and saying goodbye. They were building and destroying. They were living with an intensity that immortal species could never understand. For the first time in her 400 years of life, Ambassador Velrix wondered if she had been wasting her existence. The humans seemed to understand something fundamental that the Federation had forgotten long ago. Life was precious precisely because it ended. She turned from the window and walked toward her quarters, carrying with her the weight of a new understanding. The diplomatic mission had changed her in ways she had not anticipated. And as she moved through the corridors of the station, she found herself thinking about what she would do tomorrow. Because for the first time, tomorrow seemed to matter.